Minister, there's a substantial increase in the budget of your department, 138 million, to bring you up to 2.1 billion euros, which is great to see such support for the department, and congratulations on securing that in the budget. Could you outline to the House the plans that how you're going to use that and the progress in relation to that, please?
Thanks very much, Deputy. So as you say, we secured an additional 183 million for budget 2022, and bringing that overall budget to 2.1 billion. And the increase will be targeted at improving outcomes for children, for young people, their families, and promoting equality and human rights. And I'm allocating an extra 78 million for the early learning and school-age childcare sector, 41 million additional for TUSLA, and an extra 41 million for international protection and the work to end direct provision, and then an additional 23 million in a range of other areas. So the main spending areas, those being childcare, international protection and TUSLA, they represent 89% of the overall budget, and they're receiving a significant proportion of the increased funding. So in early learning and childcare, the bulk of the extra funding allows for that new core funding scheme for providers, which in return for a commitment on not increasing parents' fees, will entitle them to access a new funding stream to help cover increased operating costs linked to quality improvement measures. The additional resources for TUSLA will bring funding for the agency to almost 900 million euro and will allow it to continue to grow, to improve frontline services and to support those services provided by its partners in the community and in the voluntary sector. And this investment underlines the government's commitment to ensuring that TUSLA has the resources to meet its mission of protecting and supporting our most vulnerable children and families. Obviously, a key priority for me is to end direct provision, and I've allocated additional funding to start the transition to a new model of accommodation to meet expected increased demand for accommodation for international protection applicants in 2022. Other very important areas, youth, equality, inclusion, they're also receiving increases. I've placed a particular emphasis on supporting services for former residents of mother and baby institutions as well. So I'm very pleased that the additional resources of 180 million for my department is going to allow us advance significant work in 2022 and indeed achieve many of the programme for government commitments.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Minister, and I have another question later on childcare, so I might leave that to point to till then. But just on the international protection, and obviously you're doing an awful lot of work on trying to end the direct provision system. I don't know if you can give us an outline of how that additional 41 million is going to expedite and expedite that process. There's also another 3 million, I think, specifically for refugee, migrant integration, anti-racism projects. I wonder if you could give me just a list of some of those projects. Similarly, 2 million euros for actions in gender equality. Just again, an example, a couple of examples of specifics of what's happening there. And I'll come back to the childcare in the later question, which I think I have last Count Corla. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just try and address them briefly. So in terms of the actions on gender, some of that money will go towards the creation of the website and the reporting system for the gender pay gap, which, as you know, we passed earlier this year. In terms of the international protection, 41 million, significant part of that is to basically continue. We expect increased numbers of people arriving in the country seeking international protection as international travel increases, and we are seeing that. So it's to increase our capacity to respond to people as they arrive. Another significant portion of that money will be used in terms of securing the first element of the community accommodation for the new model and providing people, the initial people moving into those community accommodations with that independent living allowance, which I think is going to be really important in terms of supporting them there. What was the second?
Those three, but
the 3 million. Sorry, just
3 million. Sorry, refugee, migrant,
refugee and migrant. Yeah, absolutely. A key part of that on the anti-racism. We're expecting the anti-racism strategy to be provided in early part of next year. So there's an allocation there to support the rollout of the National Action Plan Against Racism.
There's, I believe, extra money as well for traveller and Roma integration and support. I think there's an extra 5.6 million, and I know it isn't under the remit directly of your department, but the National Traveller Education Strategy is so overdue, and it is so necessary. It is the absolute central plank for supporting the traveller community more and more, and it is always the first ask whenever you speak to representatives from the traveller community. You're trying to do more. You know, I appreciate you've gotten additional money, but are your officials working to try to expedite that with the Department of Education, and can we do more on that, please, Minister?
No, absolutely. The National Travel and Roma Education Strategy is something I feel particularly passionately about, and indeed it does fall within the remit of my department, because early years is a key issue issue, and we know in terms of accessing the ECHE programme, the access rate by the travelling community is 10% less than the settled community. So already that educational disadvantage is being ingrained there. So dealing with that, and part of that extra money that's been allocated is to ensure that the Traveller pilot programme, I'm not getting the name right now, that's run in a number of schools across the country, looking to support the retention, particularly of Traveller children in education, is being supported for another year. It was originally to run for 2 years, but because of COVID, it's being now run for an extra third year. There's a range of other reports coming out here. The Out of the Shadows report is really important, but also a significant report on bullying in schools, and with a particular lens of bullying that Traveller children have experienced. So a range of issues there will feed into the Traveller and Roma education strategy that we'll be working to hopefully bring to fruition next year.
Thank you.